Next up, let's look at a mood board all about love. Julian from Orlando, Florida.
It's Julian here. Essentially, with every designer, we have to create essentially from the sky to the floor, as I say, about the different things that essentially inspire us to create certain shows. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show two different shows actually. I'm going to do an outdoor-based show and then I will do an indoor-based show because we do have two different seasons that we do have to deal with, at least in the marching arts world, with the two shows. One is going to be called Bach to the Future and the other one is going to be called Revered, and I'm excited to show you what I have in store.
Style period. Over here essentially with the inspirations, we have these types of patterns we will get into later. Another big thing I also look at is also hairstyles. Literally a hair option could set a whole different tone for a show. So I thought something of a little bit more of that classier side, since the outfits and stuff would speak more, and maybe the flag. At least the hair is going to be still something simple and classic that you can do. Different flags that I was able to find. The next show that I have here, which is more of an indoor-based show called Revered, or Love Letter in Japanese. So here I was able to kind of do Google Translate and look into what this show was, because I am inspired by essentially origami, and I feel like with this show you can also do a piece of the floor to where it can be folded into a heart. So essentially I looked up some origami and how to make a heart. So here I have essentially this uniform that I have custom made myself and made it to where it has a mandarin collar to give that Asian flair. But I can always, again, change up any of the textiles and colorizations that I have here.
Up next, let's see how George from Dallas, Texas put a unique flair on his mood board. Next up, in portraying an underwater fantasy, Allison from Los Angeles, California.
So I always like to look to high fashion first whenever I'm researching a mood board or any sort of design project. Since I'm doing an ocean theme board, even it might just be like animals, so things like just animals with vibrant colors, like I'll just save those as well because it might give me an inspiration for something that I would want to include like color-wise. Once I've found a couple clothing things, I start to look at fabric, so like ocean themed fabric. Something like this burnout velvet. I feel like that would be a really good fabric, especially for like a color guard costume. Yeah, and then the reflection of the water creates like a white cast, so I might want to look into using some highlights such as that. So now I chose this like cute little water background because it just like adds a little something to fill the space, and now I just like I've figured out what fabrics I want to use, so now I need to kind of put them in a configuration that looks somewhat appealing. But yeah, I just want to give like the person who's getting the design a good idea of like what color schemes would work well with their design that they're looking for, like the show that they're trying to interpret.
Is a few different elements that you saw me working on earlier, so I included some pictures of the coral reef, as you can see up here, because I just think that it adds a lot of vibrancy, and maybe we could use some color elements for a costume that has to do with this ocean or sea themed show. I also included this elaborate like coral sort of shoulder, neck, and face kind of piece here. Now obviously this wouldn't necessarily be practical for a color guard application. However, like I said, it could be used as sort of something that would be a little bit of like an accessory. I did like a lot of these like layered fabrics that look sort of like, it could look either like waves or like a coral kind of pattern, so that could be really, really well used as well. So I did select a few fabrics that I think would go well in a more practical application. We have some fabric that looks like seaweed over here, and then some actual coral print along with some shiny coral fabric added below, a couple different of the different colors that I pulled. So this would be kind of like our color like way over here. And I just honestly think this could be a very, this could be applied to a ocean themed show, and I just think that this would be a good overall color palette for a show of that caliber.
Up next, let's learn about the legend of the koi fish with Ethan from Longview, Texas.
Howdy Styleplus, it's Ethan back at it again, here to show you my mood board. And so, I decided to do a show based off of the legend of the koi fish. So, some of my inspirations were the actual Hukau waterfall, where it is said that this legend originated, as well as the Art Deco period, specifically the 1930s. During the Art Deco period, there was a fascination with Asian culture and art, and it had a lot of influence on fashion and in, any artistic form that you could think of. And so I really wanted to use a 1930s silhouette jumpsuit to really tie in that fascination with Asian culture. For my color palette, I decided to go with watery blues and fiery oranges to really show a contrast and also to imitate the scales of the koi fish and the blue of the water. For my fabric swatches, I decided to go with an orange lycra, a gold lame, and a blue power mesh. Now the orange lycra likely will end up being a printed lycra with the pattern of a koi fish on it. The blue power mesh is supposed to represent the water, and I feel like if it is on the skin and you can be able to see the skin tone through it, will really provide that translucent watery quality. The gold lame is such a crisp fabric that provides a juxtaposition to the blue and orange flowier fabrics, as well as the metallic shine giving life to the garments. My whole concept behind this show is juxtaposition, the juxtaposition between perseverance and giving up, the juxtaposition between the color palette, the blues and the oranges, they're right across each other on the color wheel. The juxtaposition between flowy and harsh, and I feel like set to the right music, this show could be a killer. As the legend goes, the koi fish were swimming up the river and came to a waterfall, and only one koi fish had enough hard work and perseverance to make it to the top. And because of this perseverance, the gods rewarded him by turning him into a golden dragon. And I love this story because it has a good plot, it has a sense of transformation, of movement, of juxtaposition between giving up and fighting hard. And I really think that that would translate well as a winterguard show or a fall type marching band show. I just think that would play really well. For the actual background of the mood board, I decided to go with a look almost like a old water damaged scroll with like the splotches and the dry brushing texture of the ink. I feel like these textures really provide a feel for what the show aesthetic is. On the right hand side of my mood board, I included a golden dragon. This dragon is painted in the Japanese style, and actually Eastern style dragons are actually water-based creatures as opposed to the more Western, medieval style dragon that we always associate with fire and, violence. These more Eastern dragons are seen more of as creatures of wisdom and, knowledge. And I think that the transformation from, lowly koi fish to this amazing golden dragon provides such a story that I think would be amazing to see on the field.